Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the Get Your Bell Rung Football Podcast. He is Kevin Reynolds. I am Bobby Wall, and we are here to talk all things football and hit you with some takes that might rattle you up a bit. On tonight's show, we will continue looking into some of our favorite draft strategies and break down the NFC South. But first, Kevin, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing well, buddy. Another long day, but I'm good to go here, brother.
You do things in the video, but many of our folks listen to it on Spotify, so they can't actually see that you're showing a Thanos for President 2020 shirt.
Yes. Make the
Okay.
universe great again, one snap at a time. I have my
Yeah.
other Thanos shirt, of course, says Thanos did nothing wrong, but we all know that's not true. Because when he snapped his fingers, he only killed half of the universe, when in fact he should have killed all but about 200 organisms. That would have made things better.
Should we start this show over and me and you talk about some things
As
off
long
air?
as Justin
Some things to work
Jefferson
out.
and Patrick Mahomes are two of them, I'm happy.
All right. Well, a couple news and notes. Luckily, we can probably talk about Deshaun Watson for the last time. Finally, the penalty came down. He will be suspended 11 games,
What a
which is an
crock.
odd number, and fined $5 million, which obviously will go to charity. 11 games and 5 mil, not enough, obviously. And the thing that's weird about it is, where do they come up with 11 games?
Who
Especially
knows?
since that next game they play the Houston Texans. It's just everything is awful about this whole situation.
I
So
get
I'm
the judge originally was 6 games, right?
right, correct.
So 11, I guess 5 from that, and then it's not 6 down from 17. So I guess they decided to do middle ground. The fine's a freaking joke.
He's got $230 million. $5 million is like 2%
Yeah.
of his this contract, not even counting what he made before.
All I can hope is that he gets picketed and just harassed relentlessly and just completely
Why have him
bombs.
come back? 11 games is an odd number. Why have him come back against the Texans? Just have him sit one more game. What's 12
Who
games?
knows, dude? The whole thing is just a nightmare. It's a PR nightmare for the NFL. I don't know. I don't know what to say anymore.
Very strange.
It's a very odd situation. Again, Calvin Ridley's out for the season for a $1,200 bet on a game he wasn't in.
I know.
Does it make any sense?
It doesn't. So let's move on. Another little thing I want to touch on, because it's a confusing situation as well, is the Seattle backfield. You have Rashad Penny, who's the starter, but then Kenneth Walker was going ahead of him in drafts. And as soon as that gets corrected, Penny has like a little tweak of his hamstring or groin or something. And then Kenneth Walker starts creeping back up. And then we hear, well, oh, Kenneth Walker has a hernia now, and he just had surgery on it. So now he's going to be out until probably week 1. But Penny's back in the lineup now. What a situation that I don't want to avoid, but I think I'm going to have to.
Yeah, it's all stupid. We hate Pete Carroll. He's trash. Well, I'm fired up tonight. These questions, you're getting me jacked. I love Rashad Penny at the end of last year. Kenny Walker's going to be a good player. They're saying classic Carroll. It's all got to be all this cryptic BS. He can't just come out and say what it is. Now they're saying it's hernia related. What the hell does hernia related mean? Is it a freaking hernia or is it not? So we have to deal with that crap. I don't know. Either one of these guys in any given week is going to be the one that has 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. You're never going to know which week it is. And Pete Carroll's never going to help. He's like Belichick. It's all got to be this big game. So I wouldn't mind having either one of them, but it's got to be the right spot or the right number. I can't, in my legal record, they're both going to be way overbid on, and I have virtually no chance of getting either of them.
And that worries me too, because again, like you said, I'd love to have either one of them as well. But someone's going to jump on each one before I can, and one of them is going to be right. One of those guys is going to be right, and it's going to tick me off. But
No, that's not
it's
necessarily
how
true.
it's going to play out.
They might both be wrong, and it could be any given week you play the wrong one. It's the beauty of a once and done league. The week that Walker's out, you play Penny. The week Penny's out, you play Walker, and you move on about your life. You aren't stuck with this jackass on your bench all week cussing up Pete Carroll left and right on Sunday night. Right? Am I wrong?
No, that's fair. Well, we'll go into once and done. We have 2 weeks, I think, after we get done breaking down these divisions, where we can really get into some other things, and that'll definitely be something we get into, because that's a very intriguing way to a very intriguing league setup.
Yeah,
and we'll go into more details about that. But first, let's do some draft strategies. I have two more. One of them for me is to do mock drafts / no ADP. And for me, I think the best way to know ADP, your average draft position, is to do some mock drafts. If you have a certain site that you use, be it Yahoo or ESPN or NFL, whatever it is, each site has their own rankings. So you want to use those ADP rankings for whenever you do your drafts, because there's inevitably going to be guys in your draft that don't pay attention to anything, and they're just going to draft the guys that they see pop up. So, if you're higher on a guy, you want to make sure that you find out where his ADP is, and you want to make sure you get him before his ADP pops up. But if he's lower down the list, you can wait a little bit. And for me, I like to do mock drafts. I don't know, maybe I don't do a ton. I used to do a lot. I've trimmed it down some, especially with the Fantasy Pros draft simulator I use. It's quick, it's easy, and you get a good feel for how a draft's going to go. And you can pick from any position, right? So 1 through 12, wherever you're going to be in your league of record or whatever, you can practice it. And I think it's important so that you know where guys are going to go. And then as you do your mocks, if it doesn't go quite how you expect, you can sort of say, "Oh, well, this didn't work out. Well, how about I modify what my plan was and try this out? What's it look like if I take a Travis Kelce at the end of round one? What's it look like if I start out with 3 running backs in a row?" And so that really helps me out and helps me prepare for my drafts.
So I like those to a point, mock drafts. I usually will do, like, say, the first 5 rounds and then just call it a day. Partially because so many people in them bow out and the computer just starts picking, and then they're just picking whoever's next on the list anyway. Once in a while, you'll get some yoke, you'll be in there and say he'll take like Todd Heap with the #1 overall pick. And it just throws the whole thing off. And it's like, why am I doing this? Why am I spending my time at work doing these drafts when I should be supervising children for some yokel to just pick Todd Heap with the #1 overall pick?
So that's why
I take it all. It's got to be with a grain of salt with those things is the only issue.
But if you use the Fantasy Pros draft simulator, it's only you, and they use their ECR rankings, which is what we look at for ADP. But it's different. So every time you do a mock draft, there'll be a different setup. One time you do a mock, I'm picking 7th out of 12 out of my league of record. So one time I'll practice a mock draft where I'm picking 7, and JT will go first overall. The next time McCaffrey will go first overall. The next time Cooper Kupp will go first overall. So they mix it up, and it's just me drafting. So I don't have a yokel taking some ridiculous pick.
Like
I don't have to wait on anybody. I don't have people, dropping out. So use that Fantasy Pros draft simulator. It's quick, it's easy.
So again, people that are just listening on Spotify have no idea that you've been sitting there smiling and chuckling and making your little silly faces, because many of them probably don't know the Todd Heap story.
There's not much to tell, Kevin. You and I were supposed to be teaching summer school. We instead were doing mock drafts in the computer lab while our kids were playing on the computers. And I had to go to I had to walk a student.
It was your turn to walk a kid up to the front. Yeah,
the parent was picking them up. I came back. The mock draft had started. I sat down and I realized somehow I had picked Todd Heap #1 overall. Okay. Obviously, you came in and you snaked my pick and you made it for me. And
that doesn't sound like something I would do. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Kevin, it happened 12 years ago, and you giggle about it every day
It was
still.
so awesome. The look on your face, dude, it was so priceless. And you frequently make the same look now, like you're sort of making it right this moment.
It's annoyance, I think, is the look that you're getting.
I'll buy whatever
Jovial
it's about.
annoyance.
I love it because it was glorious at the time. It was quite a moment.
Now, you already said that you don't really use this next draft strategy, but I make my own rankings. I know you have sort of your guys that you said you list out, but I always make my own rankings. I can't go into a draft with somebody else's list because I honestly don't really care what they think. I want to know some, I listen to podcasts all the time and, scroll through Twitter. It's basically just to find tidbits of information that I don't already know or haven't come across yet.
Right.
But I make my own stuff. I do it all myself, and obviously it takes time. But look, if I'm going to win a fantasy league, I want it to be because I won the fantasy league. I don't want somebody else telling me who I should draft and when I should draft them. And one thing I do differently is I rank my guys in rounds where tiers are like the big thing. Every single fantasy guy says use tiers, put your running backs in tiers. That way, you only have one running back left in this tier, and you got three wide receivers. Rounds for me is better and easier. That's how NFL teams do it. NFL teams, they'll come out and they'll say, well, right now we have 21 guys as, we'll give them first round grades. Okay, great. That's how I'm going to do it. If that's and it makes it easier for me. I don't have to think. When I get to the fourth round, if I look and I have four guys left that I would take in the fourth round, those are the four guys I want to pick from. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes those guys, you know, get drafted before it's my turn. Then I have to look elsewhere. But the rounds for me make more sense than the tiers. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I don't really much care if it's tiers or just straight numbers. That's all just semantics. That's all just words. Whether you have a tier or not, you can just count the tier. Okay, I got 5 guys in this tier, 3 in the next, 7 in the next, 6 in the next. Okay, well, that's 8, that's 21 players. So the next tier starts with number 22. That's all just semantics. But I think part of the reason I don't do it is I just don't need to, I guess. I know where I value certain people, and I don't really need a list to necessarily do it. I know you do it, not necessarily. I want everybody to know you don't do it because you need it. You do it because you enjoy doing it.
Also
Is
correct. Yeah.
I think more so than the fact you need it to draft. It's not like you're a fool and had no clue what you're doing. And if you don't have this list in front of you, you're drafting Todd Heap in the first round. It's nothing like that. So I think it's more that you just enjoy doing it. It's nice to have them. And you get on a lot of like these sites, like say, like ours, it lists everybody in order. All the players are there anyway. And okay. So that's why I like to just target a few guys that I really want, I'm really interested in. I put their name in front of my face, either on a piece of paper, a post-it, computer, whatever, and I go from there. Because I just don't, I know roughly where I value everyone.
For me, like we all know, I'm pretty high on Mike Williams. If I
Really,
use,
you hadn't mentioned that.
yeah, only every chance I get. If I do like a Yahoo draft, and let's say they have him ranked at wide receiver 21 or something, I have no idea what their ADP is, and I need my rankings because if I have him at wide receiver 8, I don't want to use theirs because I'm just looking at who they tell me I need to draft. I'm not even going to see my guy and how it's ranked. That's why I use my rankings, because I want to make sure I don't miss a guy that I'm higher on than whatever site it is that my draft is using.
I don't think you could miss Mike Williams to save your life.
Well, that
I'm
was just an
fairly
example.
sure you'd like to have his children.
I'm not sure if you were a health teacher, Kevin. We both know that is not possible.
Hey, it's a 21st century. Things have changed up, buddy.
Well, one thing that hasn't changed is the Falcons are still not good, and their odds of winning the Super Bowl are plus 20,000. They were 7-10 last year. Third in the NFC South. They were 26 in offense, 29th in defense. Their point differential was negative 146. And if you are trying to win NFL football games, that's not going to cut it. It's tough to project this offense because they have a quarterback change. They had Matt Ryan was there for like, good grief, 15 years or so. But we at least have a decent sample size of what Marcus Mariota can do. And like I said, they lost Matt Ryan, they lost Russell Gage, they lost Julio Jones, they lost Calvin Ridley. They lost the leading tackler in the NFL, who I try for some names. I'm not going to try for his, but now he's leading the defense in Jacksonville. They added Marcus Mariota, which I just talked about. Desmond Ridder, also rookie quarterback, along with rookie wide receiver Drake London and running back Tyler Algier. And they added Damian Williams, veteran, back to the running back room as well. Losing your franchise quarterback and your defensive leader is tough. Many people expect the Falcons to be selecting in the top 10, if not the top 5, if not the top 2. I know.
Them
I
and
know.
the Bears, baby.
I know it's going to be the third year in a row for them, but I like Arthur Smith. I like the head coach. I like the pieces they put in here, and I don't feel good for them this year, but I do feel good for them going forward.
I mean, my thought partially is if Cordero Patterson is your starting tailback, you're probably in trouble. These guys suck, dude. That's just a fact. They're going to be terrible. They're going to get beat up on. They're going to lose games by 30, 35 points. They'll win a couple, but yeah, they're going to be fighting the Bears for that number 1 pick next year. I don't really have a whole lot more to say about them. I don't know how a GM could keep their job after putting this together. I don't know how you could be so poor at your job that this is what you've come up with. How do you sell this to your fan base? Like, this is as good as we could do. How do you sell this to them?
It's tough. At least they got a quarterback. I feel like anytime you draft a quarterback, it's like, hey, look, we're trying.
But he might not even play.
I know.
I think you're a lot higher on him than they are.
I might be. I don't hate Mariota, and
I don't hate him either. He's fun to watch play, but top to bottom, this is probably the second worst roster in the league behind the Bears.
Interestingly enough, the Arthur Smith, the head coach of the Falcons, is not really on a hot seat. However, the Carolina Panthers and Matt Rule, he is definitely on the hot seat. They are plus 13,000 to win a Super Bowl title, 5-11 last year and last in the division, 29th in offense, 21st in defense. But I'm pretty sure they gave up the second fewest yards in the league. I don't know how you give up the second fewest yards and are 21st in scoring defense. But hey, numbers are what they are, and weird things happen. I'm not sure they really lost anyone of consequence, but they did add Bradley Bozeman at center and Austin Corbett at guard. And Ike Ekwonu, obviously our favorite tackle in the draft, is there. And they just announced he is going to be the starting left tackle moving forward. Offensive line was dreadful last year, should be better this year. And obviously they added Baker Mayfield, who's going to be the starting quarterback. And with Christian McCaffrey back from injury, if he can stay healthy, and with Baker Mayfield, a talented young defense, I like the way this team is heading too. I was really optimistic about the Lions, really pessimistic about the Bears. I'm mediocrely optimistic about the Falcons. You like that?
What are these words you're coming up with tonight?
But I'm a little more optimistic about the Panthers.
Mediocrely? Is that what did you really just say that?
Yes, I did. I think it's impressive. Try to say it fast. It's tough.
Mediocrely?
See,
I don't think it's a word. I'm pretty sure. But we'll pretend it is. We'll pretend
it's definitely not a word.
This is again a terrible top to bottom lineup, but it's just good enough that they're going to win some games. They'll probably win a couple games that they should. They'll win at least one game that they probably shouldn't, and they'll go from there. Much of their success will become based on McCaffrey, CMC. If he makes it through, whether he makes it through 3 games, 3 quarters, or 3 quarters of the season, their whole team sort of just is based on his production, what he can do. He's on the field. The defense gets to stay off the field. It opens up everything else. It's really CMC. If Baker Mayfield's definitely a step in the right direction.
If they don't,
another group
this year,
that just they're not. This is not a stellar squad. Again, it's like, How did this happen? How did you put together such a pathetic team?
I think they actually have decent pieces. That defense is young and I like the things they've done on defense, especially like Jeremy Chin and like through the draft, grabbing him and
We'll see. And
they got a
Horn's got to
solid.
come up. Horn's got to come up with something now.
Yeah, that's it. JC Horn. That's the name I was trying to come up with. He's coming back from
Robbie Anderson did
injury.
nothing last year. They gave him that huge contract based on like 7 good games with the Jets of all people. Terrace Marshall did nothing last year. It's just I don't I'm just not inspired by it. I said they'll win 4 or 5 games. They'll play some other close ones, but this just isn't a good team.
Well, you mentioned that they're probably going to lose to a team or two they shouldn't and beat a team or two that they probably should. The Saints, they're plus 4,000, so they got a lot better odds at at least Vegas thinks of winning a title. They're 9-8 last year, second in the division, 19th in offense, fourth in defense. But here's going back to your point there, they lost to the Panthers last year. They lost to the Giants, the Falcons, and the Dolphins. They won against the Packers, the Patriots, and they beat the Bucs both times they played them. That's odd. I mean, I don't know how you lose to the Panthers, the Giants, the Falcons, but you beat the Packers, the Patriots, and the Bucs twice.
Very roller coastery.
Yeah, no kidding. They did lose Sean Payton, head coach, and Teron Armstead, their starting left tackle, but they added Trevor Penning to hop in there at the assuming maybe the tackle position from the draft. They also drafted Chris Olave, signed Jarvis Landry and Tyrann Mathieu in free agency, and they're kind of getting Michael Thomas back. Granted, he's been on the team the whole time, but he didn't play at all last year.
Sweet Lord.
Dude, I honestly don't know what to think about this team.
And it's looking more and more like the Alvin Kamara saga is the things I've read has said it's going to last past this year. He won't get suspended for this season. He should be safe. Dude, this is a team in any given week that might go out and throw up 45 points. It's but it's a team
or 12.
A team also they might go out and hold a team to 7 and lose. You never know what you're going to get with this team. It's going to be a whole new. How long was Peyton there? 20 years.
A long time.
It's got to be close to that, isn't it? So you're talking about a whole new direction for the team, a new course. How's that going to work out? This is one of those teams that you just don't know. But as far as overall talent, I mean, you still got Cam Jordan. Anytime you got him on the field, you never know if he's going to kill somebody. This is a team that could beat some people. I could see him going 9-8. I could see him going 5-12. I could see him going 12-5. Don't know. Really don't.
One team that you thought you knew, but now I feel like some questions are creeping in here.
Oh,
Tampa Bay
come
Buccaneers.
on. Don't be ridiculous.
Hold on. They're plus 700. They were 13-4 last year. Second in offense, fifth in defense, so the top 5 in both. They're the most passing attempts in the NFL, 31st in rushing attempts. But Bruce Arians' head coach is now gone. How will that affect the play calling? Todd Bowles has taken over as the head coach, but Byron Leftwich, our offensive coordinator, this dude turns down head coaching gigs left and right just to be the offensive coordinator here. So that's a good thing. They lost both their They lost both their guards, Ali Marpet and Alex Kappa. Now their center's out, Ryan Jensen. Don't know how long he's going to be out. They lost Gronk. They lost Antonio Brown. They added Shaq Mason along the offensive line. Russell Gage, Julio Jones, Rashad White in the draft. Kyle Rudolph they signed. But Tom Brady is now out for who knows how long for a personal matter. Is this serious? Is it not? Because without Brady, that's it. This team's out of there. Kyle Trask is not the answer.
Oh, is that it? Is that all you're going to say?
I mean, so nobody knows why Brady's out.
No, it's still all in there, but does it matter?
It does.
Why?
So you think Kyle Trask could lead this team somewhere?
No, but I don't think that anybody's thinking that this Tom Brady thing is going to be something that goes on for weeks on end. The dude could literally not practice. He might not throw a ball until the morning of game 1, and they still go out and win like 31-13. This is a stacked roster on offense and defense. They're a cupcake division. I think the only real question with these guys are they the 1, 2, or 3 seed in the NFC.
As long as Brady's good, man.
I saw a meme about a week ago, and because of the roller coaster phone incident, I was unable to share it to Facebook. It was one of the other like huge wide receivers who we give so much respect to and blah 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 to, versus Mike Evans, since they both came into the league, and Mike Evans beats him in every single category. Who I can't even remember who it is. It's one of the big ones. It's Devontae Adams. He beats him in almost every single category. Everything.
It's insane. I can't believe he beats him in catches because he.
But he did have more catches. I think the only thing Adams might have maybe beat him in was maybe touchdowns, but it wasn't by many. It was almost nil. But
it took Adams a couple years to
give so much respect to Adams when he's done it all. He's the only guy he throws to. Evans has had to deal with Jameis Winston and various others, and has all these other people deals, and he still beats him in almost every major category. I just don't understand why you and people in general give Mike Evans such a small amount of respect.
Not me anymore. We've had this talk.
Not me anymore. Okay, there
come around.
You just admitted it. You didn't give him respect, but now you do.
Correct. Okay. I've come around. That's what smart people do. They realize that, hey, maybe I wasn't quite right on this. I want to get on the right side now. I want to hop on the correct train. I'm on Evans' train. We'll get there.
The correct train. So again, this okay, I'll admit if Brady doesn't play, all of a sudden this is a 500 team. But they still might win this division because the other teams aren't that great.
I'm going into everything assuming Brady is good to go, and he's just taking some veteran time off, which good for you, dude.
It's Tom Brady. He can do what he wants. He's the God who walked his man. He can do what he wants. So that said, what do you think they're going to? You think they're the one? Are they the 1 seed? Are they the 2 seed? Are they the 3 seed? What are they?
Going into the season, I think they have to be the 1 seed.
That's what I think.
Like it's not the Packers.
No, definitely not. I mean, the Cowboys will likely win the Super Bowl, but I don't necessarily think they'll be the number 1 seed.
Okay. Well, we definitely know that Marcus Mariota is not leading the Falcons to the number 1 seed. Him and Desmond Ridder, these guys, they feel like the same person. Mariota a little more accurate coming out, if I remember correctly. They're both decent players. They're both athletic, but again, not too exciting. I am interested to see what Ritter's going to do later on in his career. I think he has a chance to be pretty good, but no one's drafting either one of them. I think Mariota, you check this for me 32. On ADP, but Mariota's 32?
32, 221.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, QB 32. I think Mariota's got a little more in him than that. If we go back to his last full year as a starter, he completed almost 70% of his passes. He had a season where he threw for 26 touchdowns and 9 picks. That was 2016. And in his 4 years, he averaged 317 rushing yards a year. Now, granted, we're picking and choosing the numbers we want to use from seasons that he had played in. But if you put them together, you have a successful quarterback here and someone that could really do something in fantasy land and in real football. Now, is it going to happen? Probably not. But Arthur Smith worked with him in Tennessee, and maybe he can squeeze something out of Mariota. He's got some weapons that we're going to get to, so we'll see.
The reason he's frowned upon so much, also, because he's a number 1 overall pick. It didn't really pan out. He's never come close to what he's supposed to be. So therefore, he immediately must be a bust and drops in everybody's mind. He's a guy I wouldn't mind having as my backup quarterback on my fantasy team to throw in there a week when I have a bye or an injury happens. It's going to get you some rushing yards. I don't think he's going to be stellar, but if I can take him with pick 221, I could deal with that.
If he was drafted in the first pick of the 2nd round, people would love Mariota, I think.
Maybe not that high, but close, yeah. But yeah, they expected so much, he didn't deliver, and here he is. Thing is, Ritter's going as the 40th quarterback, so they're pretty close.
Not too far, right? Baker Mayfield, Panthers. I don't really know what to say. Last year, you kind of throw out the window. He was hurt basically all year. I think his best season he was QB 17 or so. He's an upgrade for Sam Darnold. Really, what I think is he's going to be an upgrade for the weapons around him.
Definitely.
Hopefully, he will be the answer to DJ Moore.
The dude got shafted in Cleveland. That said, he can't get out of his own way. If he just keep his mouth shut once in a while, I think he'd get a lot more respect. But he definitely got shafted in Cleveland. I mean, he took a team that was trash for the last 20 years and made them playoff relevant.
Playoffs,
He
yes.
gets hurt, plays through the injury all year. Games where you saw him like on sign how wrapped up his shoulder was. The dude fights through it, and what do? You throw him under the bus and bring in a serial. I'll be careful what I say, but I don't understand the hate.
The
vitriol.
Cleveland Browns need a grown-up to run this team.
Yeah, exactly. A grown up who goes around getting his freaking happy endings left and right to a bunch of unwilling people. I don't get why people are so against the dude. I hope he has a good year. I'd love to see them do well. We'll see. Definitely doesn't have the weapons that he had in Cleveland.
Correct. And one guy that seemingly, except for last year, I guess, but he always had weapons in Tampa Bay. Now he's in New Orleans, and they've surrounded him with some weapons. Jameis Winston, he tore his ACL last year. He looked much. I mean, he had 14 touchdowns.
Like 4 or 5 touchdowns in week 1, didn't he?
Yeah, he the crazy thing is, though, so he had 14 touchdowns, only 3 picks in 7 games. So he was on pace for a career best 34 passing touchdowns. He only averaged 168 passing yards a game. I don't know how you can average 2 touchdowns a game, but only throw for $168. His quarterback rating was 10 points higher than the best season of his career. And I think of something that I haven't heard a single human being talk about is that he was rushing the ball 5 times a game before he got hurt. Now, 5 times isn't 10 times a game, but it's not 0 times. So if you can give me 5 rushes for 20 yards a game, doesn't sound like a lot, but you get to the end of the year, man, and we're talking that's almost an extra 40 points.
Yeah, it's
right?
2 extra points a week. I'll take that.
Plus throwing a touchdown or 2. That's again, it's only 5 times a game, but that adds up throughout the season.
Yeah, the NFL's better when Jameis Winston is healthy and playing because he's just so phenomenal because you have no clue what's coming. Is he going to throw 5 straight TDs or 5 straight picks? How many of those picks will be returned for TDs? I don't think any God himself doesn't know what the hell's going to happen when he chucks the ball up in the air. But and how healthy will he be at the beginning? He's got weapons. Said Kamara's playing. If Thomas is anything like he used to be, he'll be good. Olave's going to be awesome. Nobody talks about Jarvis Landry's there. You know, all these guys, he's got weapons. I don't want Jameis Winston as my starter in fantasy, but I would love to have him as my backup. Where's he going? I look 23rd, 159. Yep. So you're talking about beginning of the 14th round.
Yeah, I mean he's free in most drafts I've seen.
No, yeah, he's going to be a guy people stream all season.
Oh, for sure. And speaking of streaming, and we've talked about that, how if you wait and take quarterback at the end, do you know how many quarterbacks? And I got this, I think it was a Fantasy Footballers podcast. Do you know how many quarterbacks were a QB1 last year at least one time?
No, I don't.
49.
It's got to be a lot.
There are only 32 starting quarterbacks in the league, but there were 49 quarterbacks put out QB1 weekly numbers.
Is that QB1 is in the top 12, you mean?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. The thing is they're so hit or miss.
You just got to play it right.
Think you've got the best. You're playing like the worst ranked passing defense. All the guys that you have are healthy. It's going to be sunny and 80 degrees. You're at home, all this stuff. Next thing you go for 160, 1 touchdown, 3 picks, and get 6 points.
That's his fantasy.
Yeah, it is. So I mean, you still want to have I can't get behind a full-on streaming quarterbacks. I can't. I'll never get behind that. There's just certain guys that is too much of a dart throw to count on every given week that you're going to get points out of somebody. I always want one stud, and then if you have to throw some darts later in the season, if there's an injury or something, then go for it.
Well, one guy we don't have to worry about throwing darts for, that is the GOAT. I'm not even going to use his name. Just call him the GOAT. He was QB3 last year. He's averaging 22 points a game. It just doesn't make sense, man. And I will never understand how a man in his 40s can continue to dominate the NFL. He had a career high 5,300 yards last year. Well, yeah, he played an extra game. He was still for
Still been
312 yards a game.
5,000. Yeah.
Well, his 312 yards a game were a career high. He still would have had a career high,
Yeah.
even if he'd only played 16.
And how many games was he not even playing in the fourth quarter?
Dude, he's got a ton of weapons, man. He loves Leonard Fournette, who he dumps the ball off to. He's going as QB9 right now.
I know.
He's like
88.
he's like Aaron Rodgers, man. They no matter what, they just don't get any respect when it comes draft time.
Yeah, it's odd. It's odd. But the thing is, when I look at the people ahead of them, it's hard. It's hard to make an argument to put them ahead of them. It's almost like so many of them are just sort of lumped together. You know, he's the man. He's like I said, he's the God who walked his man. He's
You would take him over Stafford, right?
What's that?
You would take him over Stafford, correct?
Oh my God! Every day of the week, Matthew Stafford's trash.
Okay. Who do you want, him or Joe Burrow?
Burrow.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
Even though he just got his appendix out, I'd still take him.
Yeah, I'm sort of like on the fence there. I would probably take him over Burrow. You want him or Dak?
Brady. Just because the Dallas offense, though I still like it, I don't think it'll be quite as prolific now.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the running backs. Cordero Patterson. Dude, he's been in the league. This is going to be his 10th season. He was RB9 last year. He finally found a coach that knows how to use him, but then the coach forgot how to use him. It was
even try. Yeah,
dude, it was a tale of two halves of the season for Patterson. He was an RB1 or 2, so he's a top 24 guy. The first 8 games of the season, except for week 1. So he missed week 1, and then he hit 7 in a row. Then he was only a top 24 running back 3 times after that for the rest of the season.
Well, there were weeks where we were getting like 5 or 6 carries.
Right. Well, the biggest problem was as the season progressed, he got more carries but less catches. So in the beginning of the season, they were peppering him with targets, and obviously, again, we talked quarterback secret sauce. Use them legs, buddy. Running backs, the secret sauce is getting those targets, getting those catches. He had almost 1,200 yards. He had over 50 catches on the season, and hopefully this year they drafted Tyler Algier. They signed Damian Williams. I'm hoping Patterson can line out wide more often. And if they do that and he ends up getting, even if it's just 5 to 10 carries, but he's also getting 5 to 10 targets, now we're looking at a solid flex, I think, and someone that he's going to be able to be explode. He was 2nd in yards per route run. He was 13th in yards created. Like, this guy can do something when he gets the ball.
I fear he'll lose some of those short yardage touchdowns to Mariota.
I mean, how many short yardage touchdowns did he have? He wasn't.
Not short as like 1 yard, so there's like little 4 yarders, 5 yarders, 7 yarders. I think he'll lose some to Mariota. I'm staying away from this dude. There's no chance he'll be on my team. Not that I don't think he's one of the most talented players in the league. It's just I have no clue how they're going to use him. I have no clue week to week. Is he going to get me 3 points or 30 points? And I just until we get a few games in and I can see how he's going to be used, I can't put any kind of draft capital into this guy.
And he's going as RB43. So by the time you get down there, it's like, all right, I'd rather take a risk on Tyler Algier, like a rookie on his team that might end up being a lead guy.
Yeah,
I feel you.
Can't do it.
No, for sure. And speaking of him and Damian Williams are the other 2 guys there. I've always liked Williams. He's sort of like a good all-around running back. If you're an NFL team and he's your lead guy all season, you don't want that. He can play. He can give you a couple good games here and there.
Yeah,
play some solid ball in a pinch. And Algier, man, he's big. He's like 5'11", 220-ish. Good ball player. Had great college production. I love drafting him late, RB5, RB6, just in case kind of guy. But I'm not targeting anyone in that backfield.
Nope. Move on. There's not much to talk about there.
So moving on, Is there any world where you draft Christian McCaffrey number 1 overall?
Nope.
Is there any world where you draft him number 2 overall?
Probably not. I can
So is
imagine
he?
a world where that would happen, but
So
man,
3
this
is he?
guy can't.
Who you taking 2 then? If you don't, you take JT 1. Who you taking 2?
I don't know. It depends on the format. Hell, I might just take Justin Jefferson. I don't even know.
Okay.
I really honestly, it's you have that theory of yours of you won't take your first round pick on anybody that's a risk. And this dude has played what 6 games the last 2.5 years. When he's on the field, he's as dynamic as anybody maybe that's ever stepped on the field, but he's just
It's interesting
not
you
on
say
the
that,
field.
Kevin, because in games that he's finished and been healthy, he's been a top 8 running back 95% of the time.
Yeah.
He has been the RB1 or 2, not like an RB1 or 2, the RB1 or the RB2 in almost 50% of the games he's played. This guy's a cheat code.
Yeah.
He's had 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 yards receiving, 3 seasons with over 100 targets. Dude, Baker Mayfield throws the ball to his running backs.
He
Ask
does.
Kareem Hunt.
Doesn't
Dude, if
much
he's,
matter when he tears something or rips
I
something or
know,
breaks
I know.
something in the third quarter of week 1. I root for the guy because man, he's awesome to watch. But
If he's healthy, he's a number 1 guy in fantasy,
yeah,
no matter
but
what.
he just never is.
Stuff.
I don't know what else is there. What else can you really say about the dude? When he's healthy, he's the best there is. Problem is, he's never healthy.
And I've seen him go everywhere from 1. I got him in a mock draft the other day at 7.
I can't do the whole pipe dream thing in fantasy. I can't take a dude number 1 based on what he did 4 years ago.
2,
He didn't really
3.
do it 2 years ago. He barely played 3, 4 when he was still at the top of his game. He's done nothing. I just can't. I need a guy that's actually going to freaking play.
I can. I would take him at 2. However, I absolutely will not argue with you if you're hesitant to do that.
When you got him at 7, I'll say that's great. That's man,
yeah.
and you hope he ends up at 1 or 2. But if he even ends up at on the field for 14 games doing what he used to do, you'll be happy.
Right.
But I don't think he's going to play 14 games. I think he'll be lucky to play 10.
If he plays 14, it's magic. It's magic.
Yeah.
You're in the playoffs.
I just don't think it's going to happen. And what'll happen is even if he does, he'll get hurt at the end like he keeps on doing now. And you won't have him for the playoffs. And then you got Chuba out there playing for you. If you were lucky enough to handcuff him. There's a true handcuff. Although maybe not, because Foreman's there now, so maybe not.
That's it. Muddy.
So that whole situation I would love to avoid. I'm going to let somebody else spend $80 on him. More power to you.
Well, I understand that. Alvin Kamara, we talked. The speculation was he was going to be suspended for at least for a little bit this year.
Give people beat downs.
Now it's looking like he may not. So hopefully he doesn't, at least for fantasy this year. In games last year that Jameis played, Kamara was RB 10, 39, 10, 25, 5, 1, and 17. That's not bad. I'll take that production because you get a new quarterback in there, especially a guy who likes to air it out. Not sure how the running back's going to perform. I'm good with that as far as Kamara goes. He finished his RB8. He was 5th in points per game because he missed 4 games. He has never finished below RB12 in his career. He's also never rushed for 1,000 yards, but the dude's got 80 plus receptions every year, except last year he only had 47. Double-digit touchdowns in 3 to 5 years. This dude's a stud, man.
Yeah.
And he gets it done continuously. And if he right now he's what RB12-ish. I'll look just to be sure. But if he can, I mean, he's going later. And if he
12.
Right. So if he can continue doing what he's doing or what he has done, but you get him at running back 12, 19th overall. So we're talking mid second round. That's a steal.
Yeah. One of your stats there again is misleading because he's never really been given a chance to rush for 1,000 yards. It's hard to do it if they won't give you the carries.
Right. So it's misleading sort of in a negative way.
Right. So how will he be used now? Will they throw to him as much? Will he be on the field more often? Will Ingram get to snake all the touchdowns? It's very interesting.
Would
Because
you
he's
handcuff
capable of
Kamara with
something.
Ingram?
Hell, you and I 2 years ago in that once and done league we won. We played him, remember, in the playoffs. We were the only team in the league that had him left for the playoffs at all, and we picked a week that he had 6 touchdowns. Yep, and I think Mike Evans had 3 that weekend. So we ended up with 9 touchdowns before anybody else even played anyone. Because it was like either, was it Thanksgiving? No, it was Christmas Eve.
It
It was
was a
Christmas Eve
holiday.
or
Yeah,
Christmas Day. Christmas Day, actually, I think. Yeah. So we had all
I was
those.
out on a walk. I was
We
like
had
walking around
9
the neighborhood watching
touchdowns
on
before
my
anybody
phone.
else had even played anyone. I remember some of the people like sent out stuff on messages about like, sweet Lord, what just happened? So he's capable of days like that. He's also capable of days where he has 10 rushes for 17 yards and 2 catches. It'll be really interesting to see how he's used. If I could get him in the middle of the second round in a draft, a snake draft, I would take my lucky stars.
Last year, Mark Ingram averaged 3.5 yards a carry. Are you drafting him, handcuffing him, anything?
If I have Kamara, I might. That'd be the only way. Otherwise,
All
I
right.
don't want him.
So, player that I struggle with is Leonard Fournette. He was RB9 in 2019. He was hurt in 2020. But he was RB7 last year. So he's been a top 9 running back the last 2 healthy years he's had. 4.5 yards a carry, 8 rushing touchdowns, and 84 targets last year, almost 1,300 scrimmage yards. Yet he's going a running back after Alvin Kamara. Kamara's RB12. Fournette's RB13. He's going to the top of the 3rd round. Meanwhile, we have Nick Chubb, a guy who I love. He's finished around the same spot as Fournette, during his healthy seasons, but Chubb doesn't catch passes. He's fighting Kareem Hunt for playing time. He's going as RB8, a full round ahead of Fournette.
Yeah.
If we're just looking at fantasy numbers, this shouldn't be happening. Why is it happening?
Don't know, because I love Fournette. I'd be so happy to have him on any team, especially since Ronald Jones is going now. He doesn't really have any true challenge to what how often he's going to be on the field and touching the ball.
They hate Keyshawn Vaughn. They hate Keyshawn Vaughn.
Oh, yeah.
They drafted Rashad White. He's a great pass catching back. And if they decide to use him, Fournette makes his heyday with those 84 targets or whatever it was.
But the
So that would
reason they
hurt
hated
some.
Keyshawn and Ronald Jones is because Bruce Arians is just like TB. You miss one blocking assignment, you are done. It means you're not studying enough, you're not trying hard enough, you're not paying attention. You are going because you don't kill the franchise or get the franchise killed. Not that they can't run. Fournette can block. He actually, even if it's just throwing a shoulder into some dude as he dives at his knee, he does what he's supposed to do. You give him the ball, he wants the ball. He's a good back. I mean, he'll bowl you over. He'll run around you. He'll jump over you. He'll do whatever he has to do to get yards.
Why
I don't
does
know
he
why he
get
doesn't
so
get more
disrespected?
respect.
Yeah, right.
He did it first when he was in Jacksonville. I remember people drafting him like top 5 overall, and then he just fell apart. Yeah.
I was a Fournette guy, man. When he came out, I wasn't a big fan in college and all that stuff, but he got drafted by Jacksonville. What a great position to be in. They had nobody else to run the ball.
Yep.
Going to feed him the rock. I got sucked in.
Well, it wasn't bad for about a season and a half, and then all the wheels just sort of came off. No, I'd love to have the dude. And to have him in the middle of the 3rd round, hell yeah, sign me up. Sign me up.
I know. A lot of folks out there are going to get a steal. One guy we were talking about before we clicked the record button here was Drake London, wide receiver for the Falcons, rookie. We covered him in our draft episodes, dude. He's a monster. He's 6'5", 210. In 8 games last year at USC, they had 88 catches, 1,084 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He's 11 catches a game. The defense knew that he was getting the ball. It just didn't matter. Coming out, he was my 2nd wide receiver behind Traylon Burks. And if I'm a quarterback like Marcus Mariota, give me a big athletic dude with a huge catch radius. And that's exactly what Drake London is. He has an opportunity to go well over triple-digit targets as a rookie.
Yeah, he's all they have. Him and Pitts are all they have.
Right.
They have Zacchaeus and Brian Edwards. I don't have
Who?
Yeah, exactly.
Who?
Olavide, Zacchaeus. Who's throwing to him? He did have
I
actually
think
a
you
couple
nailed it.
good games last year, but
Yeah,
and
no.
Brian Edwards, Geronimo Allison. I mean, I'm not throwing to these people. London and Pitts they're going to get everything. Granted, it's Mariota throwing to him. It's going to be a bunch of little rinky-dink stuff, but got to throw to somebody. He's hopefully he's going to be a red zone monster. God, I would love to have him on my squad for the next 5 years.
It's either of those two guys. It's him or Pitts in the red zone every
Can
time.
we mention real quick what we talked about before the show?
Please do.
So I was saying to Bobby, we won't drag this out too long.
Quickly.
Yeah, we won't drag out too long. That I have never been in my life of fantasy, and we're talking now about close to 30 years. Never more excited about a rookie receiver draft class than this year. There's like 8 or 9 of these guys that I would love to get in my draft next Friday and sign them all to 5-year contracts. Not that they're all going to blow up this year, but by year 2 and definitely 3 that I think will all be above average, if not Pro Bowl level players. It's just so many of them that not just because of how good they were in college, but the situations they've been thrown into. We talked about the Justin Jefferson effect, that this dude came straight out, was in a pro style offense, went straight into Minnesota, and they said, you know what, we're not doing this year 3 crap anymore. You're playing week 1. Let's just roll with it. And he's had so much success that now these other coaches, it's a copycat league, right? We're not going to waste 2 or 3 years of this guy's career having him, run 3 routes and barely playing. We're going. And he's one of them. Is there a better situation in the league than this? I mean, there's some that tie him, but is there a better one than this? And so many of the others, Sky Moore and Christian Watson, like all these guys that are just been thrown into these situations.
Olave, Garrett Wilson.
Unless you just completely botch it.
Yeah, it's wild. This is the most promising draft class we've had in a long time.
It's sickening. And they're all like number ones.
Yeah, right. Traylon Burks too. I mean, there's like 6 or 7 guys out of this class that could probably end up being their leading receiver on their teams. And the guy he's fighting targets for is Kyle Pitts, which again we talked about on a previous episode. We talked about tight ends, but hit 110 targets last year. And with Mariota at the helm in Tennessee, don't forget Delaney Walker had seasons of 133, 102, and 111 targets. That is right where Kyle Pitts lived last year.
Yep.
He was 1st in yards per reception and 4th in yards per route rung among tight ends. He was tight end 7 with only 1 touchdown. If you give him 6 total touchdowns,
please don't say it. Please don't say it.
It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Please don't say positive regression.
No, I won't. No. I'm saying if you gave him 6 touchdowns last year, he's tight end 3.
Yeah, he's a monster. The dude can play some.
He
is be a good 1-2 punch.
He's the Kelsey now. Like he is the Mark Andrews of the future. Like this is where he's going to be. We're going to be talking. He's going to be the guy that's drafted at the end of the 1st round, beginning of the 2nd round. The one tight end, which everyone's like, should I do it? I don't know if I should. It gives me an advantage because he's such a stud. I think it was Fantasy Footballers again. They were saying that if you look at just wide receiver routes run out wide, he was by the numbers the best wide receiver, quote, in the NFL. His numbers were better than Justin Jefferson. They were better than Jamar Chase Kyle Pitts when he was lined out wide.
Right.
His numbers when he was lined out wide.
He's a freak. He's a physical freak.
Ridiculous.
London's going 45th in receivers.
It's
Olave 47th. Burks 48. Garrett Wilson 50. Guy Moore 56. George Pickens 57. Who I'm starting to get. Oh God.
I think you were right. You were higher on Pickens than me coming out, and I think
you're right. Have you seen some of the highlights this dude's putting out?
He's good, man.
God,
he's good.
Bobby, I have him written down, but I don't want everybody to hear because I am going hard. And I hate the freaking Steelers, but it is Diva University there, so I'm going hard after Mr. Pickens.
It's a good thing you whispered it because no one in your draft will hear it.
Thank you. Christian Watson, 61. So, man, all these guys. Romeo Doubs, 65. I still don't trust that. I wish I had trusted it more as much as
They can
everybody
all
else.
be yours.
Jahan Dotson, number 70. I want all of them. I want every
Oh.
last one of them on my team. I know it's not going to happen, but my Lord, in 2 years, I'd be unstoppable.
Nice.
And have them
Especially
off of
'cause
these
you can start 4 of
minuscule
them.
contracts so then I can spend $50 on JT and whoever else.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh,
Another guy that I think is going to have a better year this year is DJ Moore. He was wide receiver 17 2 years ago, 22 last or in 2020, and then wide receiver 20 last year. He just needs that quarterback, and he's had terrible touchdown luck. He's scored 4 touchdowns 3 years in a row. And I'll get this in quick so Kevin can't cover his ears. But Kevin, I think he's in for a little positive regression for
God,
his
that's
touchdowns.
such an awful phrase.
He's at 1,100 yards 3 years in a row. Dude, he's consistent. He just needs someone to push him over that edge. And I think Baker Mayfield is the guy. He was top 5 in target share and air yards.
He needs a more
Mayfield's
accurate quarterback. That's it. I mean,
So-
he 93 catches on 163 targets. You just need more than that.
So
Yeah,
for
that's really honest. He only had 300-yard games.
this isn't a bold predictions thing, but if I had to pick one like dark horse candidate at wide receiver to finish as a top 5 guy, it's him.
Okay. I mean,
If you give him double-digit touchdowns last year's wide receiver 7.
and two of his touchdowns were in one game.
That's
He
so
only had
sad.
2 other touchdowns. The whole rest of
That's
it, he had
so
2
sad.
touchdowns against Dallas, one against
Honestly-
the Saints, one against the Commanders.
That's hard to do. That's
Yeah,
hard to
but
do.
if you look at
If
his
your team's
overall
wide
numbers,
receiver
he had a
1
lot of targets, but not a lot of yards. Even that game against Washington, he only had 50 yards, 79 against the Saints. But you look at his numbers, 29, 48, 24, 32, 42. He had a lot of bummer games where he had a lot of targets, but they just can't get him the ball. Because Sam Darnold, I saw today, was like the 35th most accurate quarterback in the league last year. That means 3 backups were better. So
I mean,
it has to get better. As long as he stays healthy, he has
Where was
to
Sam Darnold?
do better.
was Sam Darnold worse than that? He had to have been.
Than who?
Than Baker last
No,
year.
I was saying that. I might have said Baker. Sam Darnold was, I think, 35th.
Oh,
That's
gotcha.
what I'm saying. Baker's way more accurate than him.
Gotcha.
And
do we care about Robbie Anderson or Terrace Marshall?
no, because Robbie Anderson is trash, who again got a big contract based off 7 games with the Jets a couple years ago. He likes to talk a big game, but he's just not any good. It's just me being blunt. I apologize. But
I appreciate
Terrace
it. That's why
Marshall,
you're
they
here.
say he's looked great in preseason. But again, I don't care about the preseason. So we'll see. I hope he does well because I have him signed to 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, you were bigger than last year.
I
You
really
were.
was. I was surprised that, well, they didn't use him. He was barely on the field. And then when he was, he got hurt.
Gotta earn your spot. So next up, Michael Thomas moving on the Saints.
This is a
For me,
tricky
Michael-
one, this team.
So he feels for me like your grandma's favorite recipe. You lost it, and now you're just trying to wing it on your own.
Yeah.
You know what it was. You know what it's supposed to be like, but you have no idea if it's going to turn out like it's supposed to.
Then you either put in too much paprika or not enough onion salt. And it just doesn't, it's just not the same.
I mean, he's one of the best receivers in the game. He was
Ever.
Was it 3 years ago, 2019-ish?
What, 100?
People were like, might draft him number 1 overall in fantasy. And it was
People
like,
did draft him number 1. What did he have? What, it was 143 catches or 165? What was it? Something.
ridiculous.
Whatever it was, he broke Bar
I'll look it up.
Anderson's record by like 20.
And you just don't, but you have no idea what you're going to get
None.
because he's been hurt. And is he going to come back? Is it going to be okay? How's his ankle? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows that. How could you know?
He's
You know
They
which
say
is going to
he's
be
looking
slaying
good.
it. If these 3 guys lived up to their names, Thomas, Landry, and Olave, you could make an argument that they're the freaking Bengals. They might have the best freaking 1-2-3 punch in the league. Speaking of which, we never mentioned last week, one of our personal favorites, Timmy Patrick, out for the season in Denver, who
I
we
know.
thought Denver
Well,
might be the one team to really challenge the Bengals for the best wide receiver trio. Not no mo.
it does clear the way for my guy Cortland Sutton, though.
It does. It'll be more for him and Judy. But I don't
But to
like it.
answer your-
You and I root for Tim Patrick.
Correct. To answer your question, in 2019, he had 185 targets, 149 catches, 1,700 receiving yards.
Just sickening. Again, cheat code. But no more Drew Brees. But that doesn't matter because Winston loves to chuck it.
Right.
Is the guy going to play? Is he going to be on the field? Is he going to be a diva? How much will Landry and Olave take from him potentially? He's no longer just the only guy, and then you chuck a few to Emmanuel Sanders, chuck a few to this guy and that guy.
Emmanuel Sanders is not on the team.
No, I know he's not now, but he used to be. That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
Thomas was always the 100% clear-cut number one in New Orleans for all these years. He no longer necessarily is.
Well, because they drafted a guy that I also drafted in my SiriusXM fantasy radio host dynasty league. I took Chris Olave.
Didn't I have to talk you into that?
No, that was the trade. Remember, I drafted Sky Moore at 109, and then some guy was like, "Hey, I'll give you
that's right.
next pick,
I talked you into the trade, and then all this good
David
stuff
Montgomery.
happened. It turned out to be a great trade, I thought, for you.
I think so. I mean, Olave, great route runner. A lot of analysts loved him coming out this year, and he went to a perfect spot because I've said this. Not everyone agrees. I think he's perfectly suited to be a wide receiver 2 on an NFL team that can produce as close to a wide receiver 1 in fantasy because he plays right into Winston's strengths. Deep routes, smoking guys off the line. So that should look good. And you mentioned Jarvis Landry earlier, dude. I'll be honest, man, I'm not worried about him. He runs these little slot routes. It doesn't fit Winston's playing style. He's going to be 30. He was in the 40s in target separation and route win rate. You need those things. You need to create separation. You need to win your routes as a slot guy, which is what he is. So where he's going.
What I don't get from what you just said, what I don't understand is you're not worried about him as far as what does that mean?
Like I'm not worried. Like I'm correct. Thank you. So I'm not worried about drafting him. He's not going to be on any of my teams.
Oh, okay.
I'm not
you
worried.
Meant like you weren't worried about him cutting into the other guy's catches or something. You're just saying it's a guy that you have no interest in having on your team. I got you.
So I'm guys going around him. Chris Olave, you're taking Olave. Drake London, we already talked about your love of him. How about Julio Jones, a guy we're going to get to in a minute? Who would you rather have on your team, Landry or Jones?
Boy, that's an evil question. I don't know. Maybe
it's a tough one, right? But for me, it's Jones.
For me, it's probably Landry.
It's late. Landry has zero ceiling. He's like a basement in an old house.
Yeah,
you
but
have
Julio
to bend
Jones,
down.
I just don't know how much he'll really play, what he's going to really do. I don't know.
Yeah, that's Jones in 3 days could give you, or 3 games could give you the production that Jones will get you in 8.
Of course he could 3 years ago. You're right.
Okay. All right. So anyway, the guy that we talked about a little bit ago that you were saying those stats you found, Mike Evans, man, he was wide receiver 8 last year. I'm not sure that he's ever not ended a season as a wide receiver 1. I could be wrong. He's been in the league for 8 years now. He's got 1,000 yards every year of his career. He's got double digit touchdowns in half of those years. They added Russell Gage. They added Julio. I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters. History has taught me that Mike Evans is going to do Mike Evans things. He averages 75 catches a year. It was 16% target share. Oh, well, you can't draft someone with 16% target share. Hell yeah, you can. You can draft Mike Evans. He's 11th in total red zone targets last year. Dude, old Tommy boy.
He's like a modern. He's like a modern Fitz. I mean, Fitz got a lot more target share, but he catches everything. He catches contested things. He catches touchdowns. The dude's just a freaking wide receiver machine that, for reasons nobody really knows, doesn't get that much talk, much respect. Like I said, when you look at their numbers since they came into the league, he beats Adams in most of the major categories. That's not like he's blowing him away, but the whole point of the meme was Devontae Adams is treated like, again, like the second coming of
Right.
Jerry Rice. Mike Evans, they act like isn't even good enough that they don't bring in help every year.
You know that I have struggled with Evans, and for me, it was his inconsistencies, and we did see it some last year. 6 of his games, he was a wide receiver 3 or worse. So he was wide receiver 30,
I think it's
37.
part of being on that team, though.
But again, Mike Evans and we've been able to look past our differences, and I've welcomed him.
Here
I've welcomed him back in open arms, Kevin.
Here we go. It's getting deep, people. Get your boots on.
He's my wide receiver 9-ish right now. I'll take him, man. If I'm sitting there beginning of the 3rd round and he's looking at me, it's going to be tough for me to pass him up.
Some of the things you say, it's just I don't even know how to retort. They're just so ridiculous.
Well, you're welcome.
I'm glad that you've come around on the guy. It's a shame it wasn't years ago. Of course,
you're right.
The scenario happened we talked on the show before where you were forced to take him a few years ago, and you, as the soothsayer you are, predicted it a couple weeks beforehand. I'm pretty sure we were sitting at the pool and we were talking about it, and you were so frustrated this scenario where you may have to draft him.
And it happened.
And alas, boy, it just fell right into your lap, and I loved it. But he ended up having a good year for you.
Of course he did. He always has good year.
Because he's a good player. Again, he's going what? Early, mid, 2nd round?
26 overall. So very early.
The 9th receiver, 26 overall. When I look at the guys behind him, there's nobody there that I'm thinking to myself, oh man, I'd way rather have this guy than Mike Evans. I don't know if there's a single one.
Yeah, I know.
I really, I mean, some of them are equal, I guess. AJ Brown, I would have liked to have if he was still in Tennessee. I'm still not sold. Again, amazing football move for the Eagles, but I don't necessarily know how that this will add up to great fantasy stats for AJ Brown. I don't know. I'm glad you're on board.
So let's go on to Godwin. Chris Godwin. First off, did you know his real name is Rod?
I did not know that.
Rod Godwin. That's his real name.
That's
interesting.
Weird. How did you find that out?
Well, just a little research, man. This is why I get paid the big bucks.
You look up the real names of fantasy or of NFL wide receivers. That's something you do on the side.
Listen, whatever pays the bills. He was wide receiver 9 last year in points per game. He missed a few with injuries, including tearing his ACL. He's working back from it. We don't know when he's going to be ready. Maybe week 1, but is he actually going to be ready? I struggle with him, man, because he's been a stud. He's 2 seasons with over 1,100 yards, flirted with 10 touchdowns a few times. He had double-digit targets in 6 games last year and had over 100 receiving yards at 5. So if he's another one of those guys where if you feed him the rock, he's going to perform. A beast.
I love him because he's one of the very few Penn State alum that actually amount to anything in the fantasy world in the NFL.
But where are you taking him?
I don't know. I hate that he might miss 6 weeks. But again, I don't
think so.
You don't think he's going to miss any? I think even if he doesn't, he's going to be eased in. He's not going to go out there for 60 snaps.
He's going as wide receiver 23.
Yeah, I don't know where I'd take him because I love the dude. I love that team. But again, I draft for the playoffs. I don't draft for the regular season because you can make enough moves to finagle your way into the playoffs. So I'd maybe take him a half round higher than other people would. But I still don't know exactly where that is.
I mean, I can tell you where it is. He's going as a wide receiver 2. He's going at 64th overall.
He is. I'm just saying I don't know if I could definitely see taking there. That's middle of the 6th round. I could take him in the middle of the 6th round. Absolutely, because you can make enough moves during the year to overcome that. It's not like he's your 2nd or 3rd round pick and you're just throwing away points.
And then Russell Gage, Julio Jones. I was really high on Russell Gage, but then Godwin coming back and the Julio signing, it I don't know. It soured me on the whole Russell Gage deal. But now what I'll say is, well, there's too many mouths to feed. So this is going to go against what I just said. However, last year's top 9 wide receivers in points per game: Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Antonio Brown, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. 3 of the top 9 wide receivers last year in points per game all came from the Buccaneers. Cyril Grayson, who nobody knows, also a wide receiver for the Bucs. He only had a target in 3 games, but he averaged 13 points a game in those games. Dude, they threw 730 times. If they're on the field, they're going to get you fantasy points.
Yeah. I don't think they expect to throw that many times this year, but it'll still be a lot. Man, talk out of camp was that Gage was the best looking receiver there. The catches he was making, the separation, the moves. But you're right, man. That's a lot of people, and he's got like 3 potential Hall of Famers in front of him.
Last year he was 13th in yards per route run, 12th in route win rate. That's good, man. That's good.
Good player. He put up some good numbers with just on a horrible team. I don't know. It's one of those things. He must have, he signed a contract all excited, then to go get Jones, and he just must be like, God damn it, really?
And I don't care about any of the tight ends. Cameron Brate, Kyle Rudolph, Kate Otten. I'm out on all of them.
As far as Tampa Bay,
yeah,
somebody's going to catch, because that offense, they run plays specifically for the tight end, just right down the seam, because you have all those monsters on the outside. But yeah,
Cameron Brate's burned me too many
the problem
times.
is week to week you don't know who it's going. Even last year you didn't know. There were games where Gronk had 8 catches for 89 yards, but Cameron Brate had 3 catches for 14 yards with 2 touchdowns. It happened a good bit that Gronk would get all the yardage, they would get the touchdowns.
Then Gronk went out and Brate did nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, so
yeah, I'm out on all that.
Yeah, I don't. There's nobody there I really want.
Anything else you need to add, sir? Are we ready to roll?
No, I think we're good. This division's not really exciting. I don't know that there's anybody in their right mind that wouldn't pick the Buccaneers to win it. Have a boatload of fantasy stuff and points, and just not a real exciting division.
All right. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Our tunes are by Flatline. Please check us out on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at GYBR_podcast. Again, that is at GYBR_podcast. Kevin, great show. Thank you. See you in a week, buddy.
See you, dude.